So I bought a new keyboard recently. I bought a new mechanical keyboard, a programmable mechanical keyboard, very ergonomic. It's got this weird design. It's actually maybe the most ridiculous yet interesting keyboard that I've ever used. Today we're going to talk about my new ErgoDox Easy. Let's get started. So, why did I buy this ridiculous keyboard called the ErgoDox Easy? What is the ErgoDox Easy? Well, let's check it out. So, obviously you guys got my overhead cam looking at my ErgoDox here. You can kind of see what's going on here. Of course, I got the web browser open here to the ErgoDox Easy website. The first thing you notice is it's got this weird split design, right? Your standard keyboard, of course, is all one piece. The ErgoDox Easy is basically two halves, and you can arrange them however far apart, whatever angles you want to have it at. And this goes to the ErgoDox really being a ergonomic keyboard, right? So your typical keyboard, everything is tight, scrunched up close in. You're always, like this on the keyboard. Not with the ErgoDox. You can spread the two halves apart, get them, like a shoulder width apart. And now you can hopefully open up your chest and get a more proper posture. So those of you that type all day, sit at a keyboard all day doing a lot of typing, this hopefully will be better ergonomics wise. It's a keyboard for the pros. Because it's programmable, you can kind of tailor this thing to suit your own needs. Whatever it is you do, whatever kind of programming you do, or if you're just a writer, you can really set this keyboard up for your particular needs, and that's kind of what is expected. You're going to program this thing. You're going to set, all the various keys. You notice most of the keys actually don't even have any kind of labels. Obviously, the QWERTY keys, the standard alphanumeric keys, are labeled, but all the modifier keys all over the keyboard are completely blank. You're going to configure those yourself and set those to whatever fits your workflow. The other thing you will notice about this keyboard that's different than any other keyboard you've ever used is that it is ortholinear, meaning that the keys line up in straight columns, right? This is kind of weird. Let me show you here, because I know the overhead cam, you guys probably can't really tell too much, but the keys lining up in these straight columns. But on the picture here in the website, you can see straight columns. This is very different than your traditional keyboards that we've gotten used to for more than a century, really, that date back because of the design of typewriters. You have, well, here's your standard keyboard, the QWERTY line, of course, at the top, and then the second line of keys, starting with ASDF, of course, is slightly offset to the right. And then the third line, starting with ZXC, is even more slightly offset to the right from the ASDF line. So they're kind of in this diagonal line, but of course, not with the ErgoDox. Straight columns. This makes it very weird at first, because the first line you're probably going to be okay with. The second line, maybe not so much. The third line is really kind of offset from the first line. Like if you had to do a word like text, T-E-X-T, T is at the very top, but now go from T-E and then X is now a real stretch, because that X used to be so off-centered, because the second line was moved over to the right and the third line was moved over even further to the right. T and X are kind of close on a typical keyboard. It's not much of a stretch at all, but now, you really kind of have to stretch out to get to that TX. I mean, I shouldn't have hit the keyboard here. So I've been taking a look at the ErgoDox Easy for about 6 months. It's been on my radar for about 6 months, and I've been going back and forth debating on whether I wanted to pull the trigger on this thing, because I knew it's going to be quite an investment financially, money-wise. This is not a cheap keyboard. Also, I knew it was going to be a major investment in time. I was going to have to basically relearn typing. If I go to the EZDox website here and I click Buy Now, let me show you. Get started, black, yeah. We're going to configure a ErgoDox. So I bought the black, and they do offer a white version. Do I want backlit keys? You can tell I got the backlit keys. Select this option. Do I want the black wing rests? Yeah, absolutely. So that is the little rubber wing rests here. You may or may not want these. I'm kind of glad I purchased them. They're actually extremely comfortable, so I like the wing rest. So I'm going to select that option. Do I want the tilt tent kit? That is the little arms here that you can adjust the tilt of the keyboard. Now most people, you're probably just going to do this like any other keyboard, sit it flat on the desk. You probably won't need the tilt kit. I bought it just because it's already an expensive keyboard. For another $30, you know, I didn't mind having the tilt arms just in case I want them later down the road. That's it. Key switches. Of course, this is a mechanical keyboard. You have to pick your key switches. I think by default, the one that they ship with is the Cherry MX Brown. I'm sure fine switches. A lot of mechanical keyboards actually ship with the MX Brown Cherries by default. If you wanted something with a little more force, the MX Blues are a popular choice, but they're kind of clicky. They're kind of a noisy key set. I wanted to do something I never tried before, so I was looking through their options here, and I've never tried any of the kill switches, and one that interests me, you know, just reading about it, was the kill copper. So I picked the kill copper, and what do I think about the kill copper switches here? I think they're really nice. They're tactile. They're a little clicky, but not that clicky. They're kind of quiet. You know, kind of medium range. I will say it doesn't take much to actually actuate the keys, though. Just the lightest touch. You guys saw me, you know, I was trying to demonstrate the distance between T and X a minute ago, and just barely putting my finger on the T, I got the key to actually press. So it is something to consider. Some of you guys may want something that takes a little bit more force to actually actuate that key. So this is the keyboard as I configured it. You can see $354, free shipping. By the way, it ships from Taiwan, and when I paid for it, I bought this thing, I don't know, a week ago. It got here rather fast considering it's shipping from Taiwan. When I finally got the notice, it took about a week before I got that it had actually shipped from Taiwan, but it was here not even 2 days, like a day and a half from Taiwan. So they rush deliver it to you, which you would expect. You pay a lot of money for this this keyboard here. So the ErgoDox Easy, of course, is configurable. That's kind of one of the main selling points here. So if I go to the ErgoDox Easy default layout, let's start with the default layout because that is what I've spent the last couple of hours in. So I got this thing delivered yesterday. I played with the ErgoDox Easy for about 2 hours last night. I've played with it for about 2 hours today. I've stuck with the default layout for now. The default layout is going away probably right after I make this video. The default layout, I can tell you, is kind of frustrating. So the default layout, the alphanumeric keys, makes sense. They're in all the standard places. But the modifier keys, the thumb keys, for example, now I've got to warn you guys, you know, some of the keys stretches here are kind of wide on the keyboard, but I have small hands. I have smaller than most people's hands. So like if I'm playing piano, if you guys are familiar with the piano, an octave is fine, but like an octave and a third, can't do it. My hands just don't stretch that far. So, but again, I've kind of got smallish hands. You guys with medium or certainly large hands, you know, you're probably able to reach a lot of this, but like the thumb keys, the 6 thumb keys on each thumb, really you're only going to be activating that very first kind of large thumb key, which is space by default here on the left and enter by default on the right. I'm okay with that. I might actually eventually just switch these though, maybe put the space over here. I noticed that on a standard keyboard, I always activated the space bar with my right thumb. That's just what I did. Now though, because of the ErgoDox default layout, you know, I'm kind of having to relearn using space with this thumb. So because I'm so used to it just being on the right thumb, I may change that. But again, you kind of configure this thing to suit your needs. The enter key, I don't know, I may put the enter over here. What I don't like also about the default layout, you know, playing with it for a couple hours, you got the space here, and then right behind it you have backspace. They are very close together, right? And now when I'm learning, now once I get used to the keyboard, it might not be a problem, but having space and backspace so close together, it's very easy to hit the wrong key or to hit both at the same time. I mentioned these kill copper key switches. It's pretty easy to actuate the key presses. So I find myself typing and thinking I'm hitting space after a word and instead hitting backspace, which deletes a letter, and then I keep typing a word. It's just, I get this massive just jumble of text typing. Matter of fact, you guys want to see me try to type something? So I opened up Vim here just to show you how foreign this keyboard is. This keyboard is frustrating the first time you sit down to it and try to start typing. I'm not going to kid you. You really have to completely relearn typing. Even using a standard QWERTY layout. And, I didn't switch to Colmac or Dvorak or anything like that. Still, the keys are not quite in the right spot because they're now in those columns. Also, all the modifier keys, none of those are in the same spot. So I'm going to type a line. I'm going to type, this is a line of text. And let's see how well I do. And I'm actually going to look at the keyboard a little bit. You know what? I'm not going to look at the keyboard. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, I missed. That's not too bad. So I hit G instead of F, but that actually was one of the best times I've ever done that. Let me try it again. Let's see if I can go a little faster without looking. Oh, this is not, you know what? Yeah, this is going to take some time, right? You're going to have to actually spend some time. Let me escape to get back into normal mode here in Vim. Okay, you're going to have to put in some time. You're going to have to really invest some time here. This is not something that, this is not just a keyboard you buy, right? You're buying this for the learning experience. This is a keyboard you buy for the long haul. You're going to configure it to your needs. You're probably always going to use the ErgoDox from here on out. If this one breaks, I'll buy another one. And it's not like because I learned the ErgoDox, I won't be able to use a standard keyboard. I mean, I have laptops. I'm sure most of you guys have laptops. You're not going to carry around your ErgoDox easy to use on your laptop. You'll still use a standard keyboard every now and then, so it's not like you'll forget how to use a standard keyboard, but it will take, like, I really need to spend some serious time typing to learn this. And the ErgoDox website does recommend a website for you to visit to basically relearn typing. So the ErgoDox Easy Getting Started Guide basically recommends that they recommend 2 different websites to basically learn how to type on the ErgoDox. First, for regular typing practice, they recommend keyhero.com, and for coding practice, they recommend typing.io. You do need to start just regular typing practice. Go to keyhero.com because, again, you're going to have to basically relearn how to type. Just like when you were in elementary school and first learned how to type, back in those days, you're going to have to redo all of that. So this is keyhero.com. It gives you like a sentence here to type, and can you type it correctly? It highlights each character that you should be on. Let's see how I do. There's no way I'm going to get through this, but no, I already messed up. Let me backspace. All right. I got the first sentence. Oh. What are we doing here? You will die. Yeah, we're not going to get through that, but this is what I need to do. This is what you guys are going to need to do. Going back to the configurator here, the default layout, you notice we've got some keys here labeled LT1, meaning layer 1. It takes us to layer 1. So by default, you're on layer 0, which is your standard kind of keyboard, right? The alphanumeric keys. By the way, your arrow keys, you have basically left and right here and up and down here. I don't like up and down. Up comes first and then down. Of course, in the Vim keys, J is down, K is up. So I'm going to reverse these so that they match the Vim keys. Probably. That seems like something I would do. Also, I don't like the super key. I mean, the super key is the mod key for all of my tiling window managers. Now, I could change the mod key, but if I want to keep it the super key, that super key is not in a great spot. That spot with the thumb requires me basically to move off the home row or to really stretch, but probably just move from the home row to actuate that key. I'm probably going to put that super key back here, back where it should be, right? That key right now is occupied by, is that a comma or a single quote? I think that is a single quote. Either way, well, I could just take a look at it, couldn't I? Yeah. Either way, I'm going to move that here because I have other keys that I could move that to. For one thing, this keyboard, it looks like it's not a lot of keys, right? Because it's not like, 110 keys. There's no full keypad, which I'm used to. I like having a full numeric keypad. You don't get any of that stuff, and it looks like, well, you don't have a lot of keys to work with. Well, If you've seen other mechanical keyboards, like the really small ones, they have even less keys than this one, sometimes far less keys than this one. Because these things are programmable, you really don't need a lot of keys. Like, even this layer 0, this 0 layer here, where they have every single key mapped to something on this, you really don't need all this. Most of these keys would never be used. I mean, they have some duplication going on. We have several different control keys. We have this super key. We also have this super key. Of course, they call this the Mac command key and this the Windows key. But on Linux, they're the same key. So there's some duplication there. We have this key here called hyper. What is hyper? Well, it was just a key, I guess, on the keyboard. They needed to do something with it. They call this key hyper, which is the same as typing Alt, Shift, Control, and Super all at the same time. Wow. Now, on a standard keyboard, you could not type Alt, Shift, Control, Super all at the same time. But with this keyboard, key bindings, like in your tiling window managers, for example, normally you would never set a key binding to Alt plus Shift plus Control plus Super plus another key, but now you can do that because of the hyper key. You have this key called MEH, M-E-H, which is Alt, Shift plus Control. Again, not a common key combination, but now because you have that key, you can do more key bindings than what you would typically be able to do on your standard keyboard. Well, I was talking about layers though. So we have layer 0, then we have layer 1. Layer 1, now instead of, your QWERTY keys, now we have these symbols like exclamation, at, the brackets and the pipe symbol and all of that. So how do you actuate that? Well, LT1, layer 1 right there. Let's see this in action. If I go back over to Vim for a second. Well, let me switch layouts here. I'm going to go into insert mode. Actually, before I go into insert mode, let me escape if I remember where the escape key is. All right, let's see if I can actually zoom in. Now, Control, Shift, J, and K should zoom in and out here in my terminal. They did on my other keyboard. Let's see if I can find Control, Shift, J, and K. So Control, I think, is the Z key now. When I hold it, it's Control. And then the Shift key is still kind of in the same spot. And if I go K, yes. So I can kind of figure out what's going on. All right, let's get into insert mode here. And if I just type T on the keyboard, capital T for the word this, right? And then now if I hold the layer key, the layer 1 key, T is no longer T, T is the pipe symbol, and Q is the exclamation. You see all that? If I release that, now of course it doesn't make sense to hold that layer key and type these keys. There is another layer 1 key actually on this side of the keyboard. So, and then the same spot, it's the very last key. That's the keys to get you to layer 1 so you can swap over, but when you release the keys and just start typing normally, you're back in layer 0. Hope that made sense. Now there is a layer 2, and layer 2 is one of the most interesting things about the ErgoDox. Something I want to spend some time learning actually. This is layer 2. Layer 2, you're not typing anything. Layer 2, it's mouse functions. So WASD is actually not WASD, it is ESDF. So it's shifted over, that is your directional mouse keys. Then your left arrow button is the left mouse click. The right arrow button is the right mouse click. You have some media control keys on the other split half of the ErgoDox. So let's try this. How do I get to layer 2, by the way? I hold down the key that has the semicolon on the keyboard. So if I go back here, you see my mouse. See my mouse on the screen. I'll put it in the center here in Vim. So if I type or just hold down the semicolon key, and now ESDF. You see, I can control the mouse. Actually, if I just hold it down while it moves fast, it actually accelerates too the more you hold it. So that is actually pretty cool. Now let me see if I can go up here to this line that I was typing, get to where I want. Now I'm going to left click to get back there, and now if I just started typing, yeah, I could just start typing wherever I did the left click. That's kind of neat. So that is how you switch layers. I think you can add more layers than you don't have to just stick with 3 layers. You can have 4 or 5 layers, however many layers. Again, completely configurable, and I'm going to have to really give some thought to exactly what I want to do with this keyboard, how I want to set it up. I know I don't want the default layout, especially this layer 0 layout. It's causing me some problems. Again, I mentioned space and backspace. I don't like where they're at. They're too close together. They're too easy to hit the wrong key. I don't like these keys right here, right above hyper and right above meh. That key takes you to layer 1 and keeps you there. So instead of having to hold down, that pinky key to do layer 1 just when you need it for a strange symbol, this will actually permanently put you in layer 1 until you hit that key again. You can see that's going to be a problem when you're learning to type. Every time I'm trying to go to T or to Y and I accidentally actuate these keys, all of a sudden I'm in layer 1 and I'm typing these symbols, right? So I'm going to get rid of those keys. I don't want this permanently move me to layer 1 key, or if I do, I want it somewhere that there's no way I'll ever actuate it by accident. The keys that you don't want to use very often, you probably need to relegate those to somewhere in the thumb clusters down here. Now, obviously, space and enter are perfect, but these other 5 keys that are behind it, you won't be using that much. At least I don't think I would be using those that much. So I would put things like these layer keys, or they already have home and end. Yeah, I like that. Page up and page down makes sense. Maybe put, the escape key. I probably wouldn't use that much, but super and alt, I use those all the time. I probably put those somewhere back on the keyboard, like the standard keyboard. Looking around the internet too, I found some folks that are already share their layouts, their ErgoDox layouts. There's hundreds of them out there, and one of the ones I came across, it solves a little bit of my problem as far as I'm used to a traditional QWERTY layout. So over on GitHub, I found this, the ErgoDox Easy Code-Friendly QWERTY layout, and this guy basically remapped all the keys to where you would expect to find them on your typical QWERTY keyboard. So, Control, Super, Alt, Space, and I don't know if I like where he put Space, which is where the left arrow is currently. I might leave Space actually on one of the thumb keys, but I do like putting Control, Super, and Alt back in their normal spots. He also got Delete into a more normal spot than where it is currently on this keyboard. The Delete key is actually kind of where the tab key is on a standard keyboard. That's kind of a strange place to put that. You also put backspace back to where it would normally be. By default on the ErgoDox, that backspace key is actually the minus symbol, the dash, So that I may actually just go ahead and use his layout. There's some things I don't like about his layout, but this is a good place to start. I'd probably go ahead and flash this to use his key map, and then the couple of things that maybe I don't like, I'll change, but this is a better place to start, I think, than this, for me. By the way, how do you flash the firmware? Well, here in the ErgoDox Easy Default Layout Configurator, what you need to do is you need to download this layout. Well, you don't need to download this layout, but assuming I change the layouts, I had done arrange the keys how I want, you need to pick your ErgoDox Easy model. Mine is the Glow model. You guys don't see this. Let me get my desktop view here. I get this pop-up, and it saves it as a .hex hex file. You save that file. And then you need a program called Teensy Loader. Now, Teensy Loader, you can just download from the website. I'll link it in the show description. You download Teensy Loader, and you extract the tarball, and it's already got an executable ready to go. No compiling or anything, it's just ready to go. Those of you on Arch-based systems, the Teensy Loader is in the AUR, so let me show you Teensy Loader. Let's see, if I Super P on the keyboard now is my D menu key binding, because I don't have a keypad 0 I can get to, at least not easily. And enter. This is Teensy Loader. Let me make it a little bigger, but basically it's telling you to press the button on Teensy to manually enter program mode. So what you need to do here, you need to take like a needle or a pen, something very small. Small not in length, but small in width, because there is a hole right here on your keyboard. You need to actually stick that pin in it, and there's a button in it that you actually have to hit to activate. And once you do that, then Teensy Loader just works. It'll take that hex file you downloaded, flash it to the keyboard, and you have your new layout. So after really less than 24 hours with the ErgoDox Easy, some initial impressions. The build quality is great. You would expect the build quality to be fantastic for a keyboard that, with all the options and everything that I bought, cost me nearly $400. But I mean, the case is plastic, but it's good, hard, thick plastic. Like, it's not flimsy at all. The rubber wing rests, actually, I really like these. Now, I will say some people will probably get annoyed by these because I imagine they will get dirty very fast, but they feel great. And the wing rest is actually perfect for the keyboard sitting flat on the desk. I'm really glad that I got the wing rest. The tilt kits, again, I bought them just because I don't know if I will ever use the tilt kit, but you know, it was another $30. I'm already spending over $300 just on the keyboard itself. I figured I'd get the tilt kit just in case I wanted to play with it. The box. So it came in two boxes. So the wing rests are rather large and kind of heavy. That came in its own box. The ErgoDox came in this rather large box. Two halves. In the box were the two cables that you need to power the thing. So the two halves actually have cables that connect the two halves, and then there's a second cable that actually plugs into a USB port in your machine to actually power the keyboard. So two cables. There was also a little tool, almost looks like a set of tweezers, to help change the switches on the keyboard should you want to change out the switches. I should mention I'm pretty happy with the Kill copper switches. I think I've got to get used to them though. I mentioned I keep actuating keys accidentally because they're a little sensitive to the touch, much more sensitive to the touch than the previous keyboard I was using. So much more sensitive to the touch. Those of you familiar with like Cherry MX Blue switches, they're quite a bit more sensitive to the touch. But I don't think they're too sensitive. I think I just got to get used to the keyboard. Speaking of getting used to the keyboard, you guys that have been contemplating maybe switching to something other than the QWERTY layout. Maybe you wanted to switch to Dvorak or Colemak or one of the other keyboard layouts. You've been kind of debating that. Buying the ErgoDox Easy is the perfect time to switch because you have to relearn everything anyway. Even if you stay on QWERTY, you got to relearn everything anyway. That might be the time to switch. I'm not going to switch from QWERTY. I kind of like QWERTY. Plus, it would make my Vim experience a lot more difficult, moving away from the QWERTY layout. Now, why did I buy this particular keyboard is because I've been thinking I wanted to do a little more programming. I don't really sit and do any kind of programming these days. Back in the day, I used to do some web development, build websites for fun or sometimes for money. I want to do more programming, maybe get into more bash scripting. I rarely sit down and play with bash scripting, or Python scripting might be something, I want to do a little more of just for fun and maybe do on the channel. I want to do some of that. Also would like to do just more writing, maybe write articles, post stuff to my websites or my Gopher site or something, start a blog. And if I want to write more, I know I'm not going to want to do it because it involves work, but it might be an enjoyable experience if I have the right keyboard. I know that sounds crazy, but this keyboard is kind of fun. Even though I can't type anything on it right now, I have to admit this keyboard is kind of fun to use. I love the Kill copper switches. I love, the wing rest. It has a nice feel. It's comfortable. I love everything about the keyboard. By the way, the LED lights. We have the full range of colors of the rainbow to change the lights if I wanted to switch to green or purple or pink or whatever. I didn't get into that, but you guys will figure out how to change the lighting. So that was the idea behind me making a nearly $400 purchase for the ErgoDox Easy as configured. One other thing I bought other than what you see here, it hasn't arrived yet. ErgoDox also sells a little desktop widget, which is this little ball with switches, key switches. It's basically a little fidget tool. It is called the ErgoDox Satellite. You say it's just a little ball with some key switches that you can just sit there and press, and it's got this little base that you can, sit it in. That's it. That's day one with the ErgoDox Easy. Don't be surprised if the next especially 2 weeks, but maybe as long as a month. Don't be surprised if anything I do on the channel, if I'm doing a tutorial about anything, if I'm typing in the terminal or writing something in Vim, that I struggle on camera. Struggle in a major way. So this should be interesting, but I'm looking forward to it. Before I go, I do need to thank a few special people. This show was made possible by Ansem, Chris, the other Chris, Douglas, Dylan, Jack, Leor, Philip, Rob, Robert, and Tony. They're the producers of the show, my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. Without those guys, this show about the ErgoDox Easy would not have been possible. Also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen, that ever-growing list of supporters over on Patreon that help support my work. Again, without those guys, none of this would be possible. A sincere thank you to each and every one of you guys. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider doing so. You'll find me at DistroTube over on Patreon. Alright guys, peace.